Hello, and welcome back to the Military Matrix. Tonight, we are tracking a major escalation that has sent shockwaves across the Strait, rattled command centers on both sides, and rewritten strategic calculations across an already volatile war zone. What began as a sudden, thunderous blast in the early hours of dawn has now evolved into one of the most consequential attacks of the conflict, an operation targeting a critical bridge linking frontline supply routes, political resolve, and the very psychology of the war. Authorities say this was not just an explosion. It was a message, a statement, and a shift in the balance of power. And in the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly what happened, how it happened, who may be behind it, and what this means for the future of the conflict. In the pre-dawn silence, residents on both sides of the Strait reported a deep, echoing boom that rolled across the water like a shockwave. Surveillance footage, traffic cameras, and eyewitness videos captured a towering plume of fire erupting beneath the main support structure of the contested bridge. Within seconds, concrete shattered, steel twisted, and entire lanes collapsed into the dark waters below. Military analysts have been quick to point out that this was not random destruction. The strike appeared to be surgically calculated, hitting pressure points that would deliver maximum structural damage while simultaneously disrupting the highest value logistics artery in the region. Initial assessments suggest the attackers exploited the narrow vulnerability window during a scheduled cargo convoy rotation, a time when defenses were present but stretched thin, a tactical gamble that paid off dramatically. After the explosion, both sides scrambled for control of the narrative. Officials from the targeted nation condemned the attack as a blatant act of terrorism, calling it an assault not just on infrastructure, but on national sovereignty. Meanwhile, the opposing side has issued more ambiguous statements. Some commanders call it a legitimate military operation aimed at crippling an enemy supply route responsible for sustaining offensive operations. Others deny direct involvement, but praise the strike as a blow against what they call an unlawful occupation. The information war has begun, and each side is fighting to define the event before the global audience can interpret it themselves. Reconstruction of the timeline reveals a highly coordinated, multi-phase assault. Experts examining satellite imagery say the blast pattern is consistent with a hybrid strike combining both remote, guided munitions, and on-site sabotage. That means long-range precision weapons may have softened the target, but the crippling blow came from charges placed strategically along the bridge's underbelly. To pull off such a mission, attackers would have required detailed engineering blueprints, real-time data on structural stress points, and sophisticated timing mechanisms. This level of planning suggests state-level involvement, or at the very least a highly organized militant faction with access to advanced technology. The aftermath has been chaotic. Emergency rescue teams rushed to locate missing drivers, sailors, and maintenance workers who were on or beneath the bridge at the time of the strike. Wreckage spread across several kilometers, turning the strait into a maze of twisted steel and smoldering debris. Military drones have been circling the crash site continuously, feeding live imagery to command posts scrambling to evaluate the extent of the damage. Engineers say the bridge will require months of reconstruction, assuming the conflict allows for such a time frame. Politically, the impact has been immediate. Leaders have convened urgent security meetings demanding answers and promising retaliation. The targeted nation's defense council has moved its alert status to a higher classification, signaling preparation for potential retaliatory strikes. Meanwhile, international observers warn that the attack could spark a wider confrontation unless both sides rein in escalation. Allies and global institutions are calling for restraint, acknowledging the bridge's strategic value, but urging all parties to avoid a spiral that could lead to broader regional instability. Military strategists are already outlining the implications. With the bridge severed, supply lines have been disrupted, forcing troops to rely on slower, more vulnerable routes. Fuel shipments, ammunition convoys, humanitarian deliveries, and even evacuation corridors have all been affected. This single strike could delay offensives, stall armored movements, and stretch resources thin across multiple fronts. For the opposing side, the attack is being viewed as a potential turning point, a chance to exploit the temporary logistical paralysis and push deeper into contested territory. Whether they will act on this opportunity remains uncertain, but analysts are closely monitoring troop repositionings, radio traffic spikes, and mobilization orders. What makes this attack particularly significant is the location of the bridge. Spanning a contested waterway that has been the center of tension for years, the bridge stands not just as a piece of infrastructure, but as a symbol. It represents control, connectivity, and territorial claims deeply rooted in the political history of the region. Striking it is not merely a tactical move, but a symbolic challenge, a signal that no structure, no matter how fortified or politically charged, is safe from the evolving capabilities of modern warfare. On social media, footage of the explosion has gone viral. Fireballs, collapsing lanes, and the eerie sound of metal groaning under stress have sparked intense debates, conspiracy theories, and geopolitical speculation. Some claim the attack was an inside job designed to justify future offensives. Others argue it was a precision strike by resistance groups operating with foreign assistance. Fact-checkers and analysts urge caution as misinformation spreads rapidly, amplifying confusion and heightening tensions. International reactions have varied. Some nations condemn the attack outright, calling it a reckless act that endangers civilian lives and threatens global stability. Others defend it as a response to previous aggression and emphasize the right to disrupt military supply chains. This split highlights deep geopolitical divides that have only intensified since the conflict began. Diplomats warn that unless cooler heads prevail, the region may be heading toward a dangerous inflection point. Meanwhile, forensic teams on the ground are analyzing explosive residues, shrapnel patterns, and structural fractures to determine the exact nature of the devices used. Early reports indicate a combination of shaped charges and possible drone-delivered payloads, suggesting attackers used a blend of old-school sabotage and cutting-edge technology. Such hybrid warfare tactics have become increasingly common, blurring the lines between traditional battlefields and covert operations. In military think tanks around the world, analysts are already comparing this attack to other iconic strikes on strategic bridges throughout history, events that shifted wars, altered momentum, and forced political leaders to rethink their long-term strategies. Some point out that targeting bridges has always been a high-risk, high-impact tactic for weakening adversaries. Others warn that such operations often trigger harsh retaliatory responses that escalate conflicts dramatically. As the dust settles, the question remains: what happens next? Will this attack fuel revenge operations? Will it trigger negotiations? Or will it redefine the next phase of the war entirely? For now, officials say the coming days will be critical. Reconnaissance aircraft are scanning the region, warships have repositioned defensively, and artillery units are preparing for potential counterstrikes. What is clear is that the attack has changed the trajectory of the conflict. With one explosive event, supply lines have been disrupted, political narratives have collided, and military planners have been forced to adapt. The shockwaves that began on that bridge are now rippling outward across the region, reshaping alliances, strategies, and the course of the war itself. And as always, we will continue tracking these developments closely, bringing you verified updates, expert analysis, and real-time reporting as this story unfolds. For now, the Strait remains tense, the bridge lies in ruins, and the world watches carefully as leaders decide whether this moment becomes a turning point or a spark.